so Kerin, we're going to discuss one last kind of special instance when you need to darn, right?
And this is when you get the accidental hole. You can watch your socks or your garments as much as possible to check for thinning, and so you can do your Swiss darning over the top, or you get a blowout, you can fix it. Sometimes you get your sock or something else stuck on something and move too fast, and you just tear right through the brand new yarn.
Oh.
So these socks were only a few months old before I got this hole.
Oh, and actually broke the yarn.
It broke the yarn, and what you can actually see all the ends where the stitches want to come together, but they're just hanging out.
Oh.
So in this case, what you do is actually something that's pretty close to traditional darning, and that is you create a little bit of a frame using button thread or a heavy nylon thread or very, very fine yarn that's not sticky. It needs to be slick.
Okay.
Because you're going to pull it out.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Now, reinforcement thread is a totally different kind of thing, and I would recommend that if you tend to wear your socks pretty hard. And that's something that you knit along with the yarn when you're actually knitting heels and toes.
But not likely to prevent this kind of accident.
No, although it's harder to go through
a
thick piece of nylon than it is to go through wool. So, but yeah, this is one heck of an accident. I have no idea what happened.
You didn't even know when it happened.
No, I just looked down and I was like, what?
Oh.
Okay, so I got my darning egg in there, and the good thing about this sort of thing is that you can definitely see your stitches really, really well. There's no felting. They line up really well. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take your thick button thread, and you don't need too much.
You don't even care what color because you're taking it out.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter what color it is.
Is it helpful if it's contrasting color so you can see it?
Yes, you should be able to see it if you can. So I wouldn't use these on black socks. I would use white on black socks. And what you want to do is you just go through your stitches.
Like you're picking them up?
Like you're picking them up. Okay, so I have all of those. And that's about the end of the hole there. So there's one row. And then I'm just going to turn it, go back through. Let's see, I want to pick it up starting. So I'm missing this leg, which is what I would normally want to pick up. I have this leg of this one, so I'm just going to pick up here. And then go all the way across to the edge.
This is the next row up.
This is the next row up.
Again. Okay.
Threading through.
I think just gapping that, or bridging,
bridging
the gap.
Yeah. Yep, that's all you're doing. You're just creating a little bridge across the hole. And you just keep going up until you've reached the last point. Let's see, yeah, boy, that stitch is gone too, huh? And you want to leave this really loose if you can, because you are going to need to pull it out.
Okay.
And I mean, if it's in the heel, you can leave it if you want to, because it'll reinforce it, but it probably won't be terribly comfortable.
Because it's not stretching, whereas the rest of your knit fabric is stretching.
Right, right. Sometimes it's a little hard to determine what side of the stitches. This one's actually still whole. Okay, and so that's pretty much it. That's the whole size of the hole. It's only covering...
A nice small one.
Yeah, it's a real small one. So sometimes you're going to get ones that are not this small. But what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to actually make a new stitch where there isn't one. So I have a very small amount of yarn here, and it's the tiniest hank in the world.
Yes, but you saved it. Good for you.
Yeah. So here we have, obviously don't want to use a thread needle for yarn.
Oh yeah, darning needle.
Darning needle. Okay. So just like in Swiss darning, and any kind of patching that you have to do, you want to do at least one row underneath where the hole is. So in this case, it's actually going to be this green row here, because it's the aqua row where the break actually happened. So I'm going to start
1 row below.
1 row below.
Is your anchor row.
Yep, that's the anchor row. So I'm just going to kind of let this hang out here, and I'll weave it in later. So you just want to darn over that whole row. And this is where you're going to see the black thread coming in handy.
So are you trying to catch your thread or trying to avoid your black thread?
You catch the black thread. So
Okay.
see here where this would ordinarily be,
Nothing.
yeah, there should be a stitch here, and so you should be able to go through that stitch. Well, there's no stitch. So you go over the thread.
Okay.
And it might not look good right now, but it'll look good.
You'll come back.
Yeah, you fix it on the next row.
Okay.
And then you just keep darning until you get to a nice solid spot where you can turn around. And try to leave enough of a loop up there that you can catch.
I can see, yeah. You want to be tight.
Now you can technically do this without the thread, but I find it's really handy because you can see how many rows you've got to do.
Yeah.
And you're not going to miss anything that way.
I'd end up with knots if I didn't have the thread in there to give me some sort of spacing.
Yeah. That's exactly what I would do too. So I'm going to make this nice big patch. Okay, so I'm just going to go up to the next row underneath. Okay, so now we're actually going to start going over the hole itself. So I'm going to start over here, start working my way back. As you can see, I'm doing this pretty loosely. If you need to tighten it up, especially if it's a small hole, it's a whole lot easier to tighten it up later.
Just like when you go back with Kitchener and kind of snug up the
Right,
stitches.
exactly, because it's the exact same motion. So now, here I'm going to start getting into the area where there's the thread. So you don't want to actually pierce the thread at all.
Okay.
But when you have your duplicate stitch, just like any other time, you want to catch both strands.
Okay.
When you're doing the darning. Okay, here's the fun part. There's no stitch there. So the stitch needs to go over this piece of black thread here, just like it would be going through another stitch, and then darned into or grafted into the stitch underneath it. In this case, because we've got this one sitting here, I'm going to do this stitch in two pieces. So that I can
make it a little bit easier.
It's kind of hard to see because it has a little puff of broken yarn coming through it.
Right. Okay. But you're managing to catch that one edge. That's good.
Yep. Okay. So now we're coming back up. We have another stitch to create, and then go back through here, and that as well is going to go over that piece of black thread. And see what that does is it keeps it from getting goofy, as it were.
Yeah, kind of keeps you lined up.
And actually, I went through the back. I should have gone through the front. This is what happens when I'm talking and not paying attention to myself. Okay. So I'll pull that out. Okay. So over and then back through the front. Okay. So now, let's see. We're going to go through here. And now there are some real stitches.
Yay!
So you have to follow wherever that piece of thread goes through. So it's going to be a little
it's kind of like
funny.
You're knitting blind there for a couple
You're
stitches,
sort of,
and then you come back to solid ground.
Exactly, and you're sort of knit weaving because you're not just grafting this in, but you're also having to weave the needle and yarn around the thread that's there. So making sure that everything is seated properly.